In this video, let's work through exam 1. We have 8 problems equally weighted. The first one is a rules problem. This one, which I told you would be on the exam, where you need to find some violations of the 3 modeling rules. And let's just start at the top and go through those. So we have an input with a value 3 times. Whoa, that's an input. Formatted as an input, but it's got a formula in it. That's inviting someone to type a number in there thinking it's an input and mess up the whole model. So let's put that one down here as B13 format, something like that. Okay, periods, these are probably pretty benign. Beginning balance, whoa, that's a value. So if I changed this input, it would not change that cell because there's a value in that cell. So B16, whatever. Okay, and let's look at the other formulas in there. Equals F16. F17 looks like we're just referring to a formula that we can copy down. Good there. Okay, payment. That's referring to B13 like it should. But it looks like somebody came in here and referred every single one of these cells to B13. If they wanted to extend that a couple of years, they could not copy that down because there are no dollar signs. So that would be, where would that be? C16 through C25. You don't have to type as much as I am. And if your coffee hasn't kicked in, then it'll probably be slow to type. All right, let's check the next column. I'm seeing that 0.04 in this column. I think we already used that cell. That's that rule. So 0.04, the B16, so we're just referring to the cell 2 columns to the left. So that would be D25, 16 through 25. Okay, looks like I've got one more we need to find. Now I don't know how they typed this in. Actually I do because it was me. But I went back and added dollar signs, which was silly because you can't copy that formula up and down. So let's just say that E16 through 25 should not have absolute references, which prevent something like that. Okay, do an alt-away on that, make it look pretty, and let's move on to the next one. Okay, here we need to restate this balance sheet, and I think that after quiz 1, most of the class said they enjoyed starting on net debt first because they could get that one out of the way. So they took the long-term debt and the short-term portion of the long-term debt and subtracted off any cash and equivalents. And as we use these things, let's highlight them so that we know we've used them. And let's know where we put them so we can check back later. We could even come up to formulas and trace our precedents, and so see that, yep, we got them all going in there correctly. Okay, equity is an easy one. Let's just grab that from the total stockholder equity. Give it a different color. I'm going to hit Control, pick those guys, go home. Let's make that one blue. Long-term assets. That's going to be PP&E's long-term. Other long-term assets, that's pretty obvious. Okay, let's color those 3. Pick a color, yellow. All right, net working capital. This one's the trickiest. We always want to do current assets minus current liabilities, but if we try that, we realize we've already used those cash and cash equivalents. So let's take what's left in there minus what's left in current liabilities, and color those. Okay. Now I'm going to check these right quick. That trace precedence, that I think that's Alt M P. So I've got my orange cells coming in. Yep. Alt M P. Those two yellow cells coming in. And then here, Alt M P. Got the green cells coming in. Alt M P. The blue cell coming in. So my colors work. Now let me go through this balance sheet and see if I missed anything. Left that one white, but it's just a sum. Left that one white, it's just a sum. Left that one white, it's just a sum. Corrected since quiz 2, huh? Left that one white, it's just a sum. Left these white, but they're sort of subs. They're going into a sum. And left that one white, so it's a sum. Okay, so feel good about that one. Come up here and remove those arrows. Copy those formulas across. I don't mind grabbing that one because it's just a sum of the ones above it. Okay, we're good with that problem. We're about 6 minutes into the quiz. Dividends. Well, that's a familiar pattern. Find the cost of equity. Well, that's R sub E, which is the discount rate that makes the PV of all future dividends equal to the stock price. So if I put all future dividends that I wanted to forecast with this 15% growth, years 1 through 5, and then I represented all the remaining dividends right here at a longer term growth rate of 3%, added them together, took the net present value, assuming the dividends are paid at the end of the period, then I would need to go back here and find the discount rate that makes that PV equal to the stock price of 65. So let's do that. So the current dividend is 4. And then it's just going to be that times 1 plus this high growth rate for years 1 through 5. Need dollar signs on that. Copy that guy over here. That's the terminal value formula. We've been using that for the last month or so. What does it look like here? I think that's the one with dividends and growth rate and R sub E. Notice that's exactly the same math as this. Oh, error. I'm going to have to fix that before the quiz. So we're going to take that and copy it. Save a little time. Over here, paste it. Okay, dividend 0 is that. Growth rate for the long term is that. Let me do that again. R sub E is that, which is empty, so it's going to probably blow up or something. So we've got that formula working correctly. I better guess something to put in there right now, like 9%. Okay, ooh, that's close, but it doesn't matter. Add those two together with an alt equals. Oh, no, with an alt equals that we're going to adjust for that. Copy it back that way, and I think we said we're going to use an NPV here at the cost of equity, because we want to know what discount rate affects this guy to make it equal to that. And then we want to discount all these. Gosh, I'm glad somebody left those yellow for me. And then if I leave that like it is, if it's at the end of the period, let's see, assume dividends are at the end, we're good. Okay, all we have to do now is goal seek. I like to take the difference and set it equal to 0. Because if you think about it, then my shortcut becomes Alt A W G tab 0 tab. And then all I have to do is decide which cell to change. Well, it didn't change anything. I guess it changed from 9 to 9.33. Gosh, I must have made a pretty good guess on that initial. That doesn't feel quite right. Let's say if I'd have done 5, let's see what happens. And then came down here and did Alt W G 0 tab 0. Nope. Alt tab 0 tab. So 5%. Wow, yeah, 9.33. That was a good guess. It's almost like I wrote the problem. Okay, so that's dividends, and now we're 10 minutes into the quiz. Plug. I love the plug problems because they're just teeter-totters. So if I'm going to start on the liabilities and equity side, I know what's on the other side of the teeter-totter. It's just that. And so then I need to subtract off anything that's going to end up on my side of the teeter-totter. So total liabilities is a sum. I don't want to mess with that because it's going to give me some kind of weird circular reference. So I'll subtract off total current liabilities. And then I'll subtract off, we already said that's a sum. I need to subtract these things off, and they're totaled up right there. So looking for that answer. Since my coffee hasn't kicked in, I'm going to check my key over here, see if I got that right. Looks like I did. So we'll just copy that over. Okay, so we got the plug right. About 11 minutes into the quiz. Oh, story problem. Rhoda built a discount. The free cash flow in the terminal year. Okay, we know about the terminal year. She estimated the value of everything beyond the terminal year to be $3 million. Well, there's only two ways we could do that. We have a multiples method and a perpetuity growth method. So find the cash flow she could have used. So if she were using the multiple method, what multiple of 3,000? Oh, there's an error in my problem. Change that to 2. What multiple of 3 million or of 200,000 is 3 million? Okay, well I can do that in my head, but let me not trust myself since it's coffee's still kicking in. Okay, that's a multiple of 15. So she could have said if my terminal year I made 200,000 and then my multiple were 15, she would have got a terminal value of 3 million. A little bit trickier to find the other way. If she'd used the perpetuity growth method, what would she have had to use for a long-term growth rate? I'm going to go to the formula sheet for that. Okay, terminal value is free cash flow to blah, 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 blah. Oh, I think that formula was okay, the way I said it earlier. I was confused. I should have been pointing at this formula was the same as this formula. Anyway, let's come back to implied. Stick that guy in here. Okay, so my free cash flow at time t was 200,000. My growth rate, oh, that doesn't go there. I'm looking for the growth rate, so I'm going to call that RCE. You don't have to do these subscripts. I just made you do that homework because I wanted you to feel super comfortable with why they look the way they do. Okay, so let's say calculated terminal value using RCB. How about that? And that is where I could put in that formula. And I could say my free cash flow at time t was 200,000. My growth rate, that's what I'm trying to find. Need that twice. And my WACC is up here. Okay. So if I have no growth rate, then I just get the this divided by WACC. Guess how that formula works. If I have a constant growing growth rate, let's stick in a 5%. I want to know what number here would give me the calculated terminal value that she got, which was 3 million. So let me do that thing again where I take the difference. And then if I get on that cell, my shortcut becomes Alt-A, WG, tab 0, tab. And I can say, set that to 0 by changing cell RCB. Okay. Looks good. We're about 15 minutes into the quiz. check the solution. Okay, let's move on to the whack problem. Ooh, data table. So use a what-if data table to show whack for all the combinations of cost of equity and cost of debt shown below. Yeah. Well, if I'm going to do a what-if data table on cost of equity and cost of debt, one thing I know, so I'm going to have R sub E and R sub D sorry, kind of OCD this way. Have to have those guys as inputs, so let's make them inputs. Okay, and I'm going to need some kind of output if I'm going to do the data table, so I'm trying to find show whack for all the combinations of that. So I better calculate whack. Okay, got a formula for that. That's good. I'll put that in. So E, what is E? Well, it says the firm's capital structure is 80% equity and 20% debt. So that is the percentage of my capital structure that's equity. So I'm just going to put a 0.8. We're not getting graded on modeling rules in this problem. We just need to get that right. That's the percentage that's debt, 0.20. Okay, I've got an R sub E right above me. And I've got an R sub D right above me. And then I'm told that the corporate tax rate is 30%, so I'll do 1 minus 0.3. Okay. And of course it looks silly because there's nothing in here. Let me go ahead and stick something in there. I'll just use 5. I'll format that as a percent, so it makes sense. Show a couple of decimal places. So I think now I've got a model that, I'll even make that an output just to look pretty. Got a model that gives me whack as a function of this guy and this guy. So I'm ready to build a data table. So first thing I need in a data table is a formula up here in the corner, pointing at that. And then I can highlight the row and the column that I need and do a shortcut there. I want that row input cell to go into cost of equity because that's a row, so it goes into cost of equity cell. Column input, so for this column of numbers, I want them to go into cost of debt right there. Okay, looks pretty good. We're about 18 minutes into the quiz. Come over here. Oh, beta. Nobody likes beta. Use the historical stock prices. So we've got historical prices for Google and for S&P. And we're told which function to use. That's good because I probably would have forgotten to find Google's beta. Well, that's just the slope of the returns. I ought to put a hint on that quiz. Help me remember. Yeah. So returns. I can't calculate a return in the first period. I have to go to the second period. Seems like in the video we use 2 different ways to do that. Let's see what the formula sheet says. Okay. I like this, but I still have a lot of students that like that. It's the same exact math, but that just gives me more places to mess up. Or we could do a continuous return, and he says I would prefer use periodic returns, but I'll accept it either way. Well, let's keep him happy and do this. Okay, so copy that guy, Control C, come over to beta, no point putting anything there, paste, okay, current price, over previous price, and we're good. So I do Control C, and this is short enough, I'll just use my arrows. I'm going to check that and make sure I didn't miss any dollar signs. Let's see. Yeah, so even if I move over a column and down a bunch of rows, I'm still looking at the S&P, current, and previous, so I'm good with that. Okay, so slope, we're told to use slope. And I made a note to myself that Google is the Y data and S&P is the X data. So I'm going to do slope, known Y's. Nope. See, I just did it wrong. Known Y's and known X's. Alright, so I guess that's the beta. Confirm your answer by plotting the data on a chart. Okay. This is where it really bites because the book put the Y data in front of the X data. And in the practice video or the video lecture I did the same thing. But let's do it. So if I get those two highlighted and do an Alt-ND and make my little chart. It's not painfully obvious right now, but the if I right click on that, look at the select data. I'll tell you what, let's back up. Let's just pretend like we think we got it right. And let's right click on it, add a trend line. Use linear, display that equation. He even said to do that. Plot the data on a chart, fit a trend line, display the equation. Alright, we just did those three things. Remember from 5th grade, y equals mx plus b. So m must be 0.238, which is not 1.15. Bummer. Okay, we need to fix that. And the reason we do is because if we look at that select data, and that's hard to look at. This is easier to look at. It says my x values are in column D and my y values are in column E, but that's not the little hint I made for myself up there. I need to change those. So one way to change those would be to cut that, put it here, cut that, put it there. There are two easier ways to change those. Another easier way is to click on that series and look up here. And notice I have the series name, which we don't have a legend. I have the X data. And I have the Y data. So if I just cut that Y data, pasted it right there, now I've got X data in E and Y data in D, which matches my little hint. If I change it, look at that. M is now equal to what I calculated with the slope function. So I'm good. But let me undo that and talk about a different way we could have done that. So I click on the chart. I can't really move these. I guess I can. Okay, I can't move that X one around. But if I click on one of those points and tell it which series in the chart, right now I only have one series, then I can come over here and I can move these folks around and I can rearrange my X and Y. So I really regretted putting these out of order on the test. I started to swap them, but I thought, well, anybody who practiced this extensively is then going to be confused. So I left it the way we did it in the book and in the practice. And we've swapped them and we've got y equals mx plus b, and our m is our beta, which matches our other beta, so we're feeling good now. We're going to move on to number 3, find the average annual return on the market. Well, that's easy. These are annual returns of the market, and I just want the average. So I'm good there. 10% on the market through the early 2000s. I guess that sounds about right. Okay. So we are 23 minutes into the quiz, and now we've got this dreaded long problem at the end. Calculate the equity value of this ticker symbol FWC using information. There's a lot of information provided. Assume costs and revenues all occur each year in the month of July. Ooh, there's a big hint. Mid-year discounting. This is a fairly long problem. Don't spend much time on it until you finish the other. That's a good idea. We've finished the others, so good. All right, if we remember how we did beta, we could do that again. Looks like he's got some things to fill in. But let's think through this before we do it. If we do beta and that, I think those give us beta, risk-free rate, or something. Yeah, then we could calculate RCD. I'm going to grab that formula while I'm here. Copy. Stick that in right here. Well, even if I just stop right here, I'll get some partial credit. beta and E sub R M. That's messy. Okay. Now Excel's not going to like those square brackets, but I'm going to hit enter anyway. Yep, didn't like them. So I'm going to have to change those to round brackets. Still didn't like it. What's it trying to change? Oh, left out a multiplication. Ought to fix that on that formula sheet. Yeah, we'll accept that change. Okay, so if I can get those three, then I'll have a return on equity. But if not, at least I got some partial credit. E and D, I bet I pull those off the balance sheet. T sub C and R sub D, I bet I use them for WAC. Let's see. E, D, T, C, R, WAC. E, D, T, C. Yeah. Let's grab that guy. Copy. Put that in here, F2, and paste. E's going to go there. And again. And again. D's going to go there. And again. And again. R sub E. Go there. R sub D. Go there. T sub C. We're going to go there. Alright, I've nailed two big equations for some partial credit. Even if I leave it showing an error, at least I got the equation right. Equity value, man, I don't see how we get from there to there. I'll bet we have to use all this stuff and forecast some cash flows and stuff like that. But let's go back and get some partial credit on the way here. Alright, beta, we just did that. We just took these returns and used that slope function. Let's do that again. And no, we don't use the top one. Let's use that over that. -1, copy. Oh, look what he did to us. He flip-flopped those. Guys, I didn't do that on purpose, but we're going to roll with it because we know that the S&P is the Y data, which is what Excel's asking us for until we get comma, and then it's asking us for the X data. We get a beta of 0.76. Okay, so let's copy this, make it pretty. Call it returns. He kind of gave us all that stuff right here. If I get time, I might go back and flip-flop those before the real exam in an hour and a half. Return on equities from the market. Oh yeah, that was on this problem. We just took the average of the market returns. Let's do that again. R sub F, that's the risk-free rate. I don't know where to find that. That's current yield on treasury bonds. We don't have to worry about 3 month or 10-year or anything because he's only given us 1%. So now we have return on equity, and it's correct. How much equity and how much debt do we have? That's not an income statement thing. Maybe it's a balance sheet thing. Oh, I've got cash and I've got debt. Well, I'm going to grab the debt. It's the same in both years, so I don't have to worry about averaging. If I could. Equity. How did we get to equity? Well, there's a shares outstanding and there's a share price, and he might want average over the year for that too, but that's why he gave us the same number on both. So let's just use shares outstanding times share price. Corporate tax rate. That was a practice problem in the video. That's where we just take our taxes that we paid, income tax expense, divide it by, that's the same. He really did make this easy, making all those years the same. So tax expense divided by income before taxes, and that'd be the percentage of our income before taxes that we had to pay in taxes, so that's our corporate tax rate. Cost of debt. Man, I'm glad we're not doing the bond thing here. Oh, kind of the same thing here. We paid some interest, and we had some debt. We might need to net out cash, but he made it easy and made those zeros, so we don't have to worry about gross or net. We'll just use the interest divided by the debt. So interest divided by the debt. Okay, got lots of partial credit. I'm going to make that one a percentage. Show a couple decimal places. Let's see. Let's go back. We need to calculate the equity value using the information provided, which are discounted. I'll bet this is where we use these other two inputs up here. Near-term free cash flow growth. So if we knew what the cash flow was, we know what the growth would be. And then cash flow growth after two-stage. Hey, that reminds me of something we did before. Reminds me of that template. I'm just going to copy that template. Probably has some formulas I don't want to copy, but I don't want to paste over anything. I don't think I'll copy it. Dividends. All right, so I've got my years, my cash flows, or my dividends, my terminal value, and my total. Let's do it that way here. Year, free cash flow, terminal value, total, and then what did we do? Dividends. And present value of all those. There was more below that on the other one, but let's take the, oh, we call that PV of free cash flows is enterprise value. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. All right, so our most recent year is 2018. We're not going to use that. We're going to use 2019 and so on, or through 2022. Ooh, barely enough room in there. Okay, and our free cash flow this year was that given up here somewhere? Free cash flow from the cash flow statement. Okay. Those aren't the same, but he says it's growing at 3% or 10% or something, so probably makes sense. But I know from here we want to grow that at 1 plus the near-term growth rate with dollar signs. Copy ELEST, copy Control V, Alt boy. Oh wow, that's big. Oh, I don't think that should have been a 12. I think that should have been a 1. Copy. Okay, that looks more realistic. Going up about 10%, about 10%. Okay. Terminal value, I remember that formula. So the terminal value for the PV, that's this guy, where I have a free cash flow, a time T, and then a growth and a WACC. So let's take that, copy it, escape, paste it. Could have hit F2 first, I guess. Didn't have to. Free cash flow at time T is that. Long-term growth rate is that. WACC. Calculated that one. Okay, we're good on that. So we just want to add these two. That alt equals shortcut keeps grabbing the year because it's a number. Copy that. Copy it back, but not to 2018 because that year's already happened. We don't care about that. Now it's my NPV. I'm going to need to go back and decide what to discount it at, which cash flows to take, and then whether to adjust it for mid-year or not. Mid-year discounting. I made that note when I read the problem, so I know that is times 1 plus the WACC to the 0.5. So that's my equity value. That's my enterprise value. From that, of course, we need to pay off our debtors, and we can use all our cash to do that. So let's add cash, subtract debt, and get to equity value. He didn't really give us a formula for that. That's something we better just learn in this class. So cash, I don't even have any cash, but I'll point it up there just to be clean. Subtract debt minus some debt. And the equity value with alt equals is just the sum of that. But I want it per share. So share count is equal to shares outstanding. I don't have to average or anything. Thank goodness, because that would confuse me. And then my equity value, let me write that. Equity dollars per share is equity value divided by the shares, big stock price. So I'm going to put that in there. Okay, we're 36 minutes into the quiz, so I've got some time to do some checking. I'll go back and look at these. So beta, I'm comfortable with that. Slope of the market, comma, the stock, that does not feel right. That's Y's and X's. I don't think that's what I said over here. That note that I made myself. Google is the Y data and S&P is the X data. And that's confusing. So over here, FWC should be the Y data and S&P should be the X data. So I got those backwards, so let me rearrange those. I've got a different number there, but I'm more confident with that one. Okay, return on the market. That's just the average of the S&P. Risk-free rate. Not much we can do about that. Pretty sure we used that formula correctly. Equity is shares times stock price. Debt straight off the balance sheet. Don't have to average because they're the same in both years. Tax expense divided by income before taxes. That's got to be right. R sub B. Interest paid on debt divided by debt. Don't need to average. Yeah, that's going to be right. Yeah, pretty certain we used that formula correctly. Check down here. What's our current cash flow? I got the dollar sign right, but let's just check. I didn't actually check those. So yeah, I'm looking at the year before and the growth rate. The year before and the growth rate. Before growth rate. And that's a big number. So I'm taking F22. Format that the same just to make sure. That's a big multiple. I wonder what the implied multiple of that is. 33, that seems big. But I guess it's right. Taking the free cash flow times 1 plus the long-term growth rate over WACC minus the long-term. Okay, that's a pretty low WACC, pretty high multiple. So we're not discounting all these future cash flows very hard. And so that would give us a pretty high multiple. I guess that makes sense. Okay, I think we did everything right. I don't know why I sum those, but I always do. NPV, WACC, future cash flows. No cash to add back. Debt to subtract out. Not doing that double negative thing, just adding it up. Share count. Equity value per share. $200 stock. Wow. We'd look like an optimistic analyst if it's trading at 104 and we say we've got a target price of 199. Yeah, we'll sell some newsletters that way. Delete that. Okay, that's 40 minutes into the quiz, and that gives us a little over half an hour to go back and check all our work again.